Joining me now is former U.S. Attorney and senior FBI official Chuck Rosenberg. He's, of course, an NBC News legal analyst. So, Chuck, let's start with the singular importance of Mike Pence as a witness if the special counsel is looking into crimes involving the former president. Where would you rank Mike Pence's importance as a witness on whether it's, getting in the way, either inspiring the insurrection or getting away of the certification of the presidency?
At or near the top of that list, Chuck. Yeah. And let me explain that. When you're trying to prove a case such as this, the former president's intent matters a lot. Now, he's not the only subject. I assume there are others like John Eastman. But you want to know what they did, why they did it, and whether they did it intentionally. And so those witnesses like Mike Pence, who spoke directly to the former president or who spoke directly to John Eastman, are going to be very important witnesses. Not the only witnesses, but important witnesses. And we also know, if past is prologue, that you talk to the minor witnesses first, the less important witnesses, the ancillary witnesses, and you save the big ones for last. And that seems to be what is happening here.
Oh, so this also, timeline-wise, this tells you a charging decision is coming. Either a go or no go is got to be closer than we think.
Well, we're closer to the end than the beginning, but with a caveat, Chuck. Okay. Sometimes you talk to minor witnesses A, B, and C, and then you talk to major witness D. But you learn something new, and it makes you go back and talk to A and B again. And so it doesn't mean we're at the very end. It just means we're closer to the end than the beginning. And it doesn't only mean that they face a charging decision regarding Mr. Trump. Like I mentioned earlier, there are other subjects here, too. So we don't know who's going to be charged or when they're going to be charged or what they're going to be charged with. But closer to the end, absolutely.
Do you think that Jack Smith could get Mike Pence to testify on the phone conversation? I mean, there's this phone conversation, we know, between President Trump and Vice President Pence on the morning of the 6th. We know that it was heated. We know a lot of things about the reaction to the call. We don't know what's said specifically on the call. Is it your understanding that the agreement that forced Mike Pence to testify, does he have to testify to the contents of that call or not?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That makes sense to me, Chuck. Unless it's precluded by some privilege, speech and debate clause or executive privilege, or some other privilege like the Fifth Amendment, which I don't see pertaining in any way to Mr. Pence, yeah, he would have to answer, honestly, questions about that conversation. And going back to what you and I just discussed, it's those conversations between Mr. Pence and Mr. Trump that help illuminate intent. So I don't see a reason why he wouldn't be asked. I don't see a reason why he would be permitted not to answer questions about that conversation. And I imagine that it would be very important. Look, to a determination, right? I mean, one way or the other, it's going to be important to the determination that prosecutors make. It doesn't mean necessarily they're going to charge.
Right.
But that's what they need to know in order to make that decision.
If he makes a charging decision involving January 6th that involves former President Trump, what is the most likely charge?
Well, right. So they're looking at different theories of crimes here. One would involve false slates of electors, which could be a fraud on the United States government, a crime, or a conspiracy to commit that crime. Others might be fundraising that appears to have been done off of the stolen election lie. So hard to know exactly what they're going to charge and who they're going to charge, but we do know that that seems to be the focus, right? This effort to overturn a fair and free election through fraud.
Right.
And by the way, Chuck, in my view, that's an extraordinarily serious crime. And so I hope prosecutors are taking their time. They seem to be. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I'm curious when it comes to intent. The former president has a fascinating way he uses words. And while he expressed very public sympathy with the insurrectionists, is that enough to prove intent?
If that's all you had, I'd say no. But that's why these conversations illuminate intent and become so much more important. And by the way, it's not just what Mr. Trump says that helps to illuminate his intent. It's what people told him, right? I mean, if I told you certain facts, then I can presume that you know them, even if you don't repeat them faithfully, Chuck. The fact that you've been told certain things helps to illuminate your intent. So conversations are two-way, and that's why you want to talk to everybody involved. And the more people who had conversations like that with Mr. Trump or Mr. Eastman or whoever the subject may be, and the more they explain to the grand jury both ends of the conversation, the more you can help to illuminate the intent.
Chuck Rosenberg, NBC News analyst, former U.S. attorney, senior counsel over at the FBI as well. Always good to get your expertise. Thank you, Chuck.
You bet.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.